Okay, the test I chose to show that I administer is the Student Annual Needs Determination Inventory, and it's called the SANDI. And it tests areas of reading, writing, math, communication development, gross and fine motor development, social, emotional, and behavioral, vocational and transitional, adaptive and daily living skills, and science as well. You give this test at the triennial, and you will give it for, right here is your first test, second test next annual, and you'll start another book at the next triennial. You'll have a list under reading, under all the different things that I named that it tests, and in those lists are functional skills, starting from the least to the most. So the beginning, how I administer it, if you go over here, it's going to say first year, the date, and I have to give a score of independent, emerging, or non-responsive. Definitions for independent are that this person does this 80% or above on their own. Emerging would fall into the percentage of 79% to 0%. So somewhere in there you have an emerging. It's a large gap. 0% means the non-responsive means they don't even do it hand over hand. So the first thing that I do is I go through and I do checks. I do checks because I have a sheet that I've made up that I can use in order to just administer checks to see how many times does this child do this. And it's as simple as displace reaction to familiar person nearby. If this is a child who's really involved, nonverbal, doesn't really respond very often, I'm going to bring it down to 4 to 5 to get my 80%. If this is a child who's highly social, basically just has certain needs that interrupt their ability to function in a mild moderate setting, I'm going to do 8 out of 10 for my 80%. So I go down, I do that first day, and I make up that list, and that next day I'm just going to observe to find out all these things, and I'll answer multiple questions in here. Then as you see, I have something that's circled and starred. Where it is circled and starred means I need some materials in order to determine, does this child do this at 80% or does this child do it at emerging level or non-responsive? I have made myself a kit. This is a kit of all the things you need from all the different appendices in the back of the book. So some of them have their things, but then some of these appendices are just lists of words. So what I do is this one is matches colors. I have color cards that I use to see if they do that. And then matches objects same to same. So I have pictures of objects in here that I can use in order to see, does this child do this at 80%? So I'm going to take another day and sit down for the reading section and go through all these different skills that I have circled to see, does this child do this at 80%? Once I start getting towards here and I see that, well, I'm getting non-responsive, I'm going to go through and circle a few and see, okay, let's go back and make sure. You can't just say, okay, because they're non-responsive for 5, I'm going to stop. Because you'll come down to some of these and they may know how to do them. So it's really important that you go through all of it and look at every last thing, because some of these skills in here, like weather, identifies appropriate recipe, weather chart, grocery for a given task. Sometimes those things are built into your program, and it's something they learn just from being in your functional program. So you have to make sure you go through all of them and decide, you know what, yes, this is definitely something. So first day, I do the observations to find my 80% things, anything that needs the behavior that needs to be observed. And then second day, I go through and I'll use the kit and find out, okay, is this skill definitely an 80% and emerging. From there, I will go through, some of these are more, the parents tell me this. So I have a sheet I send home prior to the triennial so that the parent will answer that question for me, and I'll have them do the 4 out of 5 or the 8 out of 10. Do you see them do this 8 out of 10 times? Do you see them do this 4 out of 5 times? So I get parent report on that. Based on what I see, I go through here. Obviously, these skills are going towards least functional to highest functional. And once I see an emerging skill that is really low, because I still get percentages for my emerging skills. I do that for myself. If I see, okay, I'm at a skill that's 20% and I need this next skill in order to move on to the next functional skill, then I need to address that in goals for the child. And as you see, right by identifies the first letter of name, it gives me the ELA 4R reading 1.3A. So it gives me the grade level and where they're at. So that helps me go back, and I can go back through and find, I use the SECO to find my standards to match the goal that I'm going to create based off the need for the child. And that is basically how I administer the SANDI, build my goals from California State Content Standards, and align them to the CAPA. Thank you.